The sign above the peeling striped tent read, Marrow Sons Traveling Circus, though no one could recall when the troupe had first arrived. The posters plastered along Main Street claimed the show was a night of wonder and terror, but most townsfolk assumed it was just an old gimmick. Ellie and her boyfriend Mark had come on a dare. The ticket taker, a hunched figure in a ruffled collar and cracked porcelain mask, wordlessly accepted their money. When they passed beneath the tent flap, the air changed, growing damp with the smell of rotting hay. Inside, rows of warped benches encircled a dirt ring lit by flickering gas lamps. The audience was sparse, a dozen strangers sitting rigid, faces hidden in the gloom. At the far end of the ring, a tall figure in a blood-red tailcoat stood motionless. His face was painted bone white, his grin drawn impossibly wide in black grease paint. "Ladies and gentlemen," the ringmaster's voice creaked through the tent, though his lips never moved. "Welcome to our final performance." Mark shot Ellie a nervous glance. "Final? Did you know this was closing down?" She shook her head, unsettled. The ringmaster raised a skeletal hand, and the music began, an off-key calliope grinding out a tune that scraped across Ellie's nerves. The first act was The Boneless Man. A curtain parted, revealing a thin man in a shimmering leotard. As the audience clapped weakly, he dropped to his knees. Slowly, deliberately, he folded himself in half, then in half again, collapsing into an obscene tangle of limbs. When he looked up, his eyes locked on Ellie. He smiled, with too many teeth. "Don't look," Mark whispered, but she couldn't look away. She felt something, a sickly warmth sliding down her spine, like invisible fingers testing her vertebrae. The ringmaster's voice rattled out, "Isn't he exquisite?" All of our performers gave everything to the show. The boneless man slithered back behind the curtain. Next came the bearded lady, her beard hanging in coarse black ropes nearly to her waist. As she sang, her voice rose in a shrill wail, almost metallic. The gas lamps trembled. Ellie's vision blurred, and she saw her own reflection in the brass instruments scattered near the bandstand. Except in the reflection, her mouth was open in a silent scream, her skin pallid as wax. Between acts, the ringmaster drifted closer to the front row. "The price of admission," he murmured, "is your attention, your devotion, and, at the end, your essence." Mark tried to stand, but his legs buckled. He fell back to the bench with a choked cry. "Do you feel it?" the ringmaster asked. "The slow unspooling of your soul?" Ellie's heart thudded wildly. She tried to bolt, but her limbs no longer obeyed. All around them, the strangers in the audience began to lean forward. In the wavering light, she saw that their faces were cracked masks, their empty eye holes leaking tarry darkness. The final act was the marionette of flesh. A hulking figure was wheeled into the ring, something vaguely man-shaped, stitched together from unrecognizable parts. Its arms hung loose, head lolling. The ringmaster lifted his gloved hands. Invisible strings seemed to yank the creature upright. It began to dance, a jerking parody of life. As it moved, a stench of decay washed over them. Mark's voice rasped. "Ellie, I can't stand up." His eyes rolled back. Fine strands of shadow stretched from his chest, pulled toward the dancing thing. Ellie felt it too, a tightness, like a hook buried in her heart. The marionette turned its empty gaze on her, and she knew it was hungry. With a last spasm of will, she tore her gaze from its glistening sockets. She focused on the exit, just a slit of darkness beyond the rows of mannequined audience. Ellie's body was screaming at her to run. Her body shuddered, refusing. But she thought of her mother, her sister, waiting at home. She thought of the life she still wanted. Summoning all her strength, she lunged sideways, breaking the invisible hold. A shriek rose from the ringmaster, unearthly and furious. The marionette convulsed, black cords whipping the air. Mark's body slumped lifeless to the dirt. Ellie staggered toward the flap. As she reached it, she risked a single glance back. The ringmaster's mask had split down the center, revealing a gaping maw lined with jagged glass teeth. His voice was a wind that scraped her bones. "You can leave, child, but you will never forget." Then she was outside, gulping the cool night air. The tent behind her shivered and folded in on itself, like a dying flower. The lights went dark. In the distance, sirens wailed. Someone must have called them, but Ellie knew it would be too late for Mark, or for any of the others. Later, when the police arrived, there was no sign a circus had ever stood on that empty lot. Only an impression in the grass, and a handful of faded posters fluttering in the breeze, promising a night of wonder and terror. Ellie never returned to that part of town, but sometimes, late at night, she still heard the Calliope's broken song and felt the invisible strings tugging at her soul.